Hitler was bullying on steroids. It really was. I mean, it starts with a small push, but it can end, hatred can end in terrible tragedy. People say to me often, you know, well, if you're half Catholic and half Jewish, why are you a Jew? Why is Obama black? He's as white as I was Christian, but I was put in the Jew box, and he's put in the black box. Because people put people in boxes. They don't think of somebody as a person. They think of somebody, he's a Jew, he's a Christian, he's a Muslim, he's this, he's that, he's gay, he's green, he's blue. Don't put people in boxes. And you know, I hate the scapegoating that's going on. At first, everybody was going on about the illegal immigrants. Oh, these illegal immigrants. Well, I don't know a single illegal immigrant who made a bank go broke. It was all done by nasty old white men. Not a single immigrant. And then, now we have Islamophobia. We hate anybody who's Muslim because they're all evil. Well, I love lots of people who are Muslim. Again, don't put people in boxes. And there's many Americans killed Americans as Muslim, in fact more. I mean, most of the mass murders were not done by Muslims. Unfortunately, you know, with the new political climate, they opened Pandora's box of hatred. The hate speech has become legitimate. Things that I would have punished my children in middle school or even elementary school in the playground, if they talked like that. You open the television and people say horrible things about each other. I hate this hatred. You guys are better than that, you know. Your generation, did I do that? Okay. Your generation is exceptional, you know. People say, well, they're always on their phones. Stay on your phones, because you are much more open, much more compassionate, you're much more informed and much less prejudiced. I have great faith in what you're going to do. Don't let anyone tell you you're no good, because you are great, you really are. I really have so much hope. I just hope the country makes it until you can vote. Don't let them take it away for you. And you know, the other thing is that the only thing you can do is to try and make your world slightly better while you can, because it's, you know, I'm almost out of here, but this is going to be your world and your children's world. And whatever you make of it now is going to be very, very important. Every action, every day will make a difference for the future of you and your country and your children. I know I sound like a politician, but never mind. You know, there was a wonderful German pastor called Niemöller who was deported to the camps as well, and he said, first they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. Be very careful. You have a wonderful free country. Don't let them take it from you. Fight for your freedoms. And just remember that, you know, you have incredible power. Each and every one of you have the power of life and death in your hands. That's about it. Thank you. I'm going to take a few minutes and take some questions. If anybody wants to ask me anything, as you can see, I have no filter, so you can ask me anything you like. Okay? My God, what a silent one. Are they all have speech problems? None of them. Okay, nobody?
Oops.
I have one here.
No.
What have you learned most from your experience?
Not to hate. Not to hate. You have to stop hating, because it doesn't only hurt others, it hurts you. Hatred can destroy you. Love is very powerful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Nobody speaks today.
Lucian.
The Did you have any other friends that went to the camps?
Yes, interesting you should say that. You know, I had 28 members of my family. I'm the only survivor. And kids in the kindergarten, there were 52 of us. Another person survived, and I met her about 50 years ago in London. I was at a cocktail party, a very sort of elegant affair, and I heard somebody speak, and she sounded like me. So I went up to her and I said, "Who are you?" And eventually we got talking, and she was the other girl who survived from the kindergarten. And we fell on each other, and we were sobbing, and all these English people were looking down their noses at us, because you don't do that in public, you know. It was a wonderful thing to meet her. Unfortunately, a few years ago, she died of cancer. But yes, that was the other girl who survived, and nobody else did. In my family, 28 people, and the kindergarten, 50. Anybody else? There's the boy there. We seem to have the boys today. Go ahead.
If you could change anything, what would you change?
I would have become a politician and tried to defeat Hitler. And if that didn't work, I would have shot him. If I could. I'm not a violent person, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Yes?
I understood that it was like all a terrifying situation, but what was like the scariest part for you?
The bayonet. That thing, that coming at me, you know. And by then I had one eye open and I saw it coming. And I didn't even dare move. I didn't move away because I was afraid they'd find me. That was the most terrifying. You know, I don't think about it very often, but I was at a museum here in New Hampshire, a World War II museum, and one of the exhibits was a bayonet in a glass case. And I had a real attack of PTSD. I've never had that before because it was that big bayonet. It's interesting. Yes?
With everything that you went through, what helped you get through all of the bad things?
Kindness of people. I remember I was in school, by this time it was Romania, and I was in school, so the Hungarian kids beat me because I could speak Romanian, the Romanians beat me because I could speak Hungarian, they all beat me because I was a Jew, and I had 2 long braids, and also I was a smarty boot, you know, I always had my hand up. And I was walking home, and one of the boys cut off one of my braids. And I remember going home with this one braid in my hand, crying. And an old man came opposite, and he stopped me, and he says, "Little girl, don't cry." And I said, he says, "Don't, look, your hair will grow back. And those nasty people will not be happy, because you're never happy if you're nasty. And your hair will grow back, it will be even prettier than before. And you must remember that you're okay, you don't have to. And don't hate them, you know, life will do it for them." And people like that really helped me, you know, one at a time. The fact that this woman saved me, and you know, we supported her until she died. We used to go and visit her. And then when we emigrated, we would send her money. There have been good people in my life. I've had incredible luck with people. I know so many kind, good people. And you know, when I speak to people like you, the love I get back is very healing. I get a lot of love from kids. And not just kids, grown-ups too, some grown-ups. But you know, I speak in lots of places. I speak in churches, and I speak in town halls, and I even speak at Masonic things, you know, the Freemasons. I got a call from a Freemason organization, and they said, "Are you going to be comfortable speaking to a room full of men?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So I went, and there were 30 Masons, and they all wore tuxedos and little aprons. And I made a stupid joke about having leather aprons in my kitchen, which didn't go down too well. And then they took me into this room, and they had a light over me, and I had to stand on a podium. It felt like the Inquisition. And I thought, what am I doing here? But it was great, they loved it. And in the end, I was kissed by 30 Masons, going from 19 to 90. So I love talking to people, but my favorite, again, is you guys, because you're the future. You are the future, you're the hope of this country. And this is a good country, you know. I came to America, I'm not a refugee, and I'm not an illegal immigrant, and I came here on purpose, because I wanted my sons to grow up in a bigger place, because Europe is getting very small, you know, and when you put too many rats in a box, they eat each other. I'm not saying there's no rats here, but the box is bigger. And it's a good country. There's lots more good people here than not good people. And the fact is that you're all mutts like me. How many Native Americans here? Oh, wow, you have quite a contingent. Well, you can stay, the others have to leave. Because we don't know if your grandfathers had permits to come here, right? You're all immigrants. And even the Native Americans have mixed blood, I'm sure. So I feel safe here because I'm like you, you're like me. I feel this is my home. Anybody else?
What drove you to never give up?
I'm stubborn. I was going to say I'm a bitch, but I said I'm stubborn. No, I don't give up because, you know, if you give up, they win. I didn't want them to win. I feel they didn't win.
Do you know what happened to that little boy that you always played with?
He was killed in Auschwitz. He never came back, and his parents.
I'm sorry.
Well, he would have had a good life, I'm sure.
If there's one thing that you could have said to your father before he disappeared, what would it be?
It would have been that I would have loved to have really known him. I was 5 when he was taken. You know, I would have loved to know who this man really was, not just the image that I had. I would have loved to tell him that I would have liked to grow up around him. I would have liked to argue with him as a teenager. I would have loved to have all the things that you have. So if you have fathers, embrace them and love them, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal not to have one.
What is your opinion on Donald Trump or Hillary?
No. Well, let me tell you, somebody asked me at a high school, and I said I'm not allowed to talk politics, but what I think about Mr. Trump, that's all. I'm not saying anything. I'm not allowed to say. I have a problem with hatred. I'm afraid of hatred. I don't want hatred, I don't want people to hate me, and I don't want to hate anybody else. And you guys are not haters. And you can't vote, you're lucky you don't have to vote yet. But you will very soon, and I just hope the country stays good for you. And make sure when you can, you do vote. Anybody else?
Is it hard for you to come and talk about your past?
It used to be. It gets easier, and when I have one of these talks, I'm so energized. I go home and I'm happy for several days because I get such good vibes from you guys. I really do. It helps. I feel love.
What or who gave you hope?
What gave me hope? Maybe my mother. She was a very nice, strong woman, although she was damaged because, you know, after the torture and everything, every time somebody came to the door, she would flinch and say, who is it, what do they want, you know? But she survived and she was strong and she got through all that. And I wanted to be like her. So I think that's what gave me hope, my mother. Yes?
Has there ever been a scenario when there was someone who didn't like you, they saw you, but they kept quiet?
Yes. When I was in Paris, I was working for Dior, and there was a woman who was my immediate boss, and she actually didn't keep quiet. She called me the dirty little Jew girl. I was a dirty little Jew girl, but that's okay. You get used to it. Also, I didn't want her to win, so I pretended that I'm not bothered, you know. There's only 2 things you can do if somebody abuses you. Either you can punch them or you can walk away. Right?
Of all the countries to go in the world, why did you come to America?
Because I like the diversity of America. Because in every other country, you're something. You're in Germany, you have to be German. In Austria, you're Austrian. Here, you just have to be American, which is a much bigger word. It's much more accepting. And your generation especially, you know, I think this country is great. And there's an awful lot of space here as well. You have no idea. In Europe, you're never out of sight of a house. And here you can go to the wilderness and be away from people for weeks. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. There's not too many people, and there's good people. Yes, sir.
Wondering, you've read Night with the Eighth Grade?
Of course, of course.
He mentioned at the end how nobody thought of revenge. When you mentioned the Hungarian police and maybe more localized police that were doing some of the things, did you find that to be the case when the war ended? Like, was music pushing back? Or?
I have never gone back there. I have never gone back. I never want to go back. Because I want to remember my childhood as the golden childhood, not the blood-soaked childhood, you know. And I cannot forgive the neighbors who so gleefully killed us, you know, moved into our apartments, took everything. I cannot imagine that happening in America somehow. Because, again, because of the diversity, there isn't just this troop and that troop, you know, there's all kinds of people. There would always be somebody good to help. There it was very uniform. And you know, Elie Wiesel's town was very close to mine, and it was a very religious Jewish community there. And I remember some of them, well, I remember, my mother told me, some of them used to come to my mother to have dresses made, and they had to have very high necks, and even the sleeves had to be long enough to cover half the hand. She used to make wedding dresses for those ladies, who are probably all dead now, unfortunately. That's it. Oh, sorry, there's somebody here. Pretty girl up front there. I don't think they allow ugly children in this school.
When you first talked about your past, what gave you confidence?
To do it, you mean? I had a granddaughter in a school in Manchester. She was actually in 8th grade, and this was like several years ago when they weren't teaching Holocaust studies. And she came to me and she says, "Grandma, these kids don't know anything about the Holocaust. Will you come and talk to my class?" And I thought, okay, but I've never done it before, and what if she's ashamed of me, you know? And I really worried, so I went and talked to this class, and it was amazing. I mean, I was kissed by all of them, and it was a love fest, and I got hooked. That's what happened. Yes?
From the beginning to the end of your experience, how long was
The whole thing? Well, I was 4.5 when it all started unraveling, and I was 11 when we left Romania. So, you know, it took a few years. But the worst years were the first 5, you know, until I was about 8, 9, 10, something like that. And it's a long time when you're a kid. As you know, for a small kid, 1 day is like forever. Yes? Oh, I stopped counting. I stopped counting. Lots of schools. Sometimes I come to the same school. This is my 2nd time here. I like this school. Most schools I tend to talk every year, and then there's always new schools. And if I live long enough, I'll talk to many more. But they're all in New Hampshire. I only spoke to 2 schools in New York because I happen to be there. But I can't go to every school. But you know, I've also been recorded for the Library of Congress, so maybe somebody will listen to it. But it's not the same, you know. It's not the same. You don't get the same effect, the same love when you have a recording. Yes?
How many years have you lived in America?
36. It's a long time. Longer than you can imagine. Yes, back there. Can you speak louder? Holler, holler.
I think she said if you hadn't gone to the country, do you think you would have been found?
Yes, definitely, because when they took my mother and tortured her, they were in the house, you know, they looked everywhere. No, I wouldn't have made it, no. And you know, in a way also, it's lucky that they only had 1 child. She couldn't have hidden 2. So maybe being an only child was good. I think they want me to leave, right?
You're still asking questions. I think that's fine.
Oh, okay, go ahead, back here. Speak up, okay?
To save somebody, who would it be?
If I could, I would have saved Elie Wiesel. He was an exceptional man. I would have saved him. But then, you know, I would have probably saved the little boy that I loved. Yes?
You got through a lot of fear in the Holocaust. How did you do that?
How did I go through the fear?
Yeah, how did you cope with that?
It's a good question. I've never been asked that. I think, you know, the only way to do it is do minute by minute, because if you think ahead, oh, he's going to come and kill me, as long as it's minute by minute, and when they were looking for me, I could hear them all around, and I didn't really get terrified until I saw the boot next to my head. You have to compartmentalize. It's like when you're ill, you know, you don't think, oh, next week I will die. You think, well, today I'm okay, you know, bit by bit. Yes?
As everything was happening, what thoughts were going? Like, what were you thinking?
What I was thinking is I was missing my daddy, and then I got very angry. It was anger and bitterness a lot of the time. And I also felt it wasn't fair, because I was a good girl. Why are they doing this to me? You know, it's not fair. It's not fair. That idea of not fair was very strong. I still have a very strong feeling of fairness, and that's why one of the things that I do is speak all the time, because I want to tell kids not to take this bullying at all, because it's not fair. And you know, of all the languages I speak, the one I like best to think in is English, because I think there's more words in English than other languages. It's a very rich language. I mean, for instance, Italian has very few words. It's very pretty, but not many words. You can't say many things. In Italian, you can say wonderful things about pasta and bread. There's several expressions for bread and different pasta expressions, but very few expressions about feelings. It's interesting. Yes?
When you came to America, was it hard for you to learn to speak English?
No, I spoke English before. I learned English when I was about 13. I was in Israel, and I was put in a Church of Scotland mission school where